It's All Good, Magic, Mysticism, and Earth Medicine. Check us out by visiting www.magicandmedicine.blogspot.com. I'm your host, Dr. Candace Nadine Green.
Well, hello everyone, and thank you for listening to another episode of Magic and Medicine. So, I hope you all are well and healthy and doing great still during this pandemic time. And before we begin our show today, I wanted to make a couple of announcements and good stuff. So, on our site, our page, magicandmedicine.blogspot.com, if you browse around, you will find our Etsy shop, which we've been doing really well. We've been selling out of our versatile net gaiters, and they're going very well. They're all sorts of designs and everything. It's so you can look fashionable and use it for other purposes when you are in this pandemic time and even afterwards. Lots of people who are runners like to use them for their necks. I have long dreadlocks, so I use them for my dreadlocks. I used to make them for myself, but now I make them for others as well. So just check them out. We have adults and we have children, and that's my side hustle during this pandemic time, but it's going the way it is. So what has been going on? Business, homeschooling, writing, painting, doing all those things. And happy to get out to you another show. It's taken me a bit because I've just been, just couldn't find the time to set aside. And every time I did, something else happened, and you know the way it goes. But today we're going to talk about blood magic and African ancestry. Now, I'd like to talk about African ancestry because I feel that there's not enough talked about it. When I listen to other podcasts and about witchy things or metaphysical things, it's not enough talk about our African ancestry, a heritage with our rightful spiritual heritage. When we think of Black people, we think of church and Baptists and all of that, but it's much further than that. I mean, that is actually not really our heritage. So we'll talk about blood. We'll talk about blood magic. Blood, and probably lots of different cultures, is seen as a representation. It's okay. The blood is a mystical quality, has a mystical quality. It's unifying. And as long as our blood flows, we are alive, correct? So red is a representation of blood in many African and Caribbean cultures. In many indigenous African cultures, where African traditional religions are practiced, blood represents the animals that are sacrificed to a deity or deities. Because blood is the most precious gift. It flows through us. It is us. The blood is submitted to our ancestors to show our appreciation and to ask for their blessings. I mean, we don't really do that now, but back in those times before current times, before it was made illegal, that's what we did. That's what our ancestors did. Is blood was submitted to the ancestors via the animal sacrifice in order to show our appreciation for our deity or for the ancestors, or goddess, and to ask them for a blessing. So we want something, we give them an offering, and that was the offering. Now, the Bantu witches remember the Egyptian way. The AB, in Egyptian medicine means the heart or the heart soul. It is there are 7 birth goddesses called the Hathors, or the holy midwives, and they are associated with the 7 heavenly spheres. Each Egyptian, the 7 heavenly spheres gave each Egyptian 7 souls at birth. So each Egyptian was given 7 souls at birth, one of which is the soul heart. And what we mentioned just earlier, the AB, was considered the most important of the 7 souls. And eventually, the Ab came to mean both offering and heart. The hieroglyph of the Ab was a dancing figure, which also became associated with the mystical dance of life that goes on inside the body, that was thought to go on inside the body. The heartbeat represents all of that. The heartbeat represents the heartbeat is represented by the dance, excuse me. Now, the Bantu witches were cast a spell by symbolically eating the heart of the intended victim to consume his or her heart life. And in this culture, the heart is the seat of the self. Now, the African American heart healers and the mother healers of Jamaica, they synchronized the 4 elements and the 4 humors. And what's the 4 humors? The 4 humors are a system attributed to the ancient Greek Hippocrates, based on medical knowledge learned from the ancient Egyptians. Now, according to the 4 humors system, the body is filled with 4 basic substances called humors. And these humors are balanced when we are well, when we're healthy and well, both physically and mentally, and also spiritually. Now, disease and disabilities are the result of excess or deficit of one of the 4 humors. Okay. So let's say here. Now, what are the 4 humors? Now, these 4 humors, they each fluctuate with time, diet, and activity. So if any of those things is off, then there would be a fluctuation in one of these 4 humors. And we have the 4 humors, which are the black bile, yellow bile, phlegm, and blood. And there were 4 elements that were closely related to the 4 humors. And those were earth, which is which coincides with the black bile, fire, which coincides with the yellow bile, water coincides with phlegm, and the air. All 4 represented by blood through the air. Now, Blacks, African Americans, come from a long, rich history of tapping into the supernatural. Dalian Aldolfo, he's is a documentary filmmaker and co-founder of Ancestral Voices, says, every ritual is to help you to connect to the ancestors, like voodoo, activating your ancestral memory. The Yoruba, you are working with ancestors all the time to have them guide you through life. I don't know I just made a mistake there. So, but this is what the person says. It's in quotes, so excuse me if it's not grammatically correct. So in Yoruba, you are working with ancestors all the time to have them guide you through life. This allows us to move forward. And Adolfo believes that colonial propaganda has laid a foundation of resentment toward African spirituality. There is fear, there's negativity towards African spirituality, and Christianity has deconstructed traditional African practices. Now, I encounter this all the time myself, not being Christian. Other African Americans look at me sort of like I'm doing the work of the devil, and I know I've mentioned that many times on this show here. But there's a belief that if we don't believe in Jesus or pray to the Christian God, then we are doing Satan's work. First of all, I don't believe in Satan. And I know there's many other pagans out there who don't as well. But in the African American community, those of us who are, up here, at least where I live, I don't see many like me. It's sort of taboo. We automatically think when people see us, they automatically think we're from the Bible Belt because slavery in the South, and that we're Baptist or some other type of Protestant, but that's the way we're thought of. And when we're not what people expect us to be, they think that they should have to pray for our souls or we're going to bust hell wide open. It's very sad, really, because it just goes to show you how we've been corrupted and how we've been taught to fear and despise our own heritage, our own ancestry, and not realizing who we are and from where we come. And from where we come is a way of taking away our power to make us ignorant. Because if we really knew and embraced our ancestry and the power and all the magic and the spiritual practices and the tradition, we would be in a different place. We would have our stuff together. We would not let anyone degrade us and feel degraded or feel that we can't move up in society or that we have to stick to certain ways. That was when slave masters took that away from us, took our culture, forbade us to speak our language, forbade us to practice our African spirituality, our African traditions. They took away our power and they made us fearful of ourselves, fearful of really who we are. And it caused such conflict amongst our own people so that even today we can't get along. Even today we have these issues. Like you have those who are Christian and those who are not. It's just horrible. It's so horrible. Our community needs so much help. It's not all bad, but it could be a lot better. So now, in regards to the Haitian Revolution, which was good for a brief time, there was a display of ancestral power. Africans found themselves in the middle of the worst treatment in Haiti, and they were able to fight using voodoo and physics, ancestral, which included ancestral knowledge and power. There was physics in the form of ancestral knowledge and power. And Africans who were raised in Christianity were taught to turn the other cheek, taking away the power. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. The way of making us obey. And the Africans who were raised in Christianity had to do this in the face of even the most extreme anti-humane systems of oppression, like slavery. The Bible was used to oppress, to contradict, to control, and to carry out hidden agendas for those who were in power. And let me tell you, and that is what so many of our people fail to realize. So many of my people fail to realize. They just ignore this. They think it doesn't exist. And if they only would stop and think and ask themselves, where does this Christianity come from? How did my ancestors, because I don't know why there are some blacks here in America who will say, I'm not African, you are black, you have African ancestry. All right, your great-great-grandfather was a slave. How do you think they got here? Okay, come on, people. This hostile feeling between blacks, African Americans, and Africans, it's just ridiculous. The blood is still the same. The blood is the blood. Again, like we're talking here about blood here. The blood is there. You cannot change that. But because someone is grown up in America, not of their own choice, and someone grows up in Africa, it doesn't mean that it doesn't mean that one is better than the other. Okay, first of all, the person who is here, for instance, me, I'm here. I couldn't help that. When my ancestors were taken from West Africa aboard the Clotilda here in the Mobile Bay, because some captain who was really doing really poorly made a bet that he could sneak in some Africans here right under the noses of the authorities. And everyone had a piece of the pie. They put their money in, and everyone who got some money, they were given slaves as payment, Africans who were going to be slaves as payment. Okay. Was that my fault? No. So is there a reason for an African to hate me because I'm here and I speak English and I didn't really learn, I didn't grow up in Africa? No. My ancestors founded Africa Town. That's what they did. Because they were abandoned, the captain who made this bet on them took off because authorities had gotten word of what he was doing and he was going to get in big trouble because it was this triangle trade. The triangular trade was illegal at that point, the triangle trade. And he took off, and there were these Africans, and what are they supposed to do? Okay, they were left there. They started making their own town, using their own language, immersed in their culture, and that's what they did. Right? That's what they did. I mean, that's great. But it was here in America, and it's not my fault. I mean, there's this image that this image that Black people, were given of this white savior. It's brainwashing, who was pure and good, and it was really not relevant to African ancestry at all with this white Jesus. And there's many representations in the Bible of Black being seen and defined as sinister, evil, indicative of condemnation, characterized by hostility or very angry. And again, this was taught to the Black people by the white Christians. Another way of beating the Black person down. You are not worthy. You are not better than us. And all the examples of magic, okay, in the Bible had to do with a man who was white and blue-eyed. No Black person, there was no Black person I remember in the Bible who did what Jesus did. Okay, there were no persons of dark complexion or African descent who did any of that good, any of the magic that was supposedly good. Nor did an African have access to the supernatural, represented as God in the Bible. There was no direct communication line. Yet Blacks today bury themselves in the biblical word and all that it signifies. I mean, I just think that they need to open their eyes. I mean, are they ignorant of their roots? Are they unaware of Christianity's roots? So perhaps it has been shoved down the throats of their slave ancestors as a method of control, that they don't know anything else. That's all they know. And they're too afraid to know what the real root of their ancestry is, the power that lies in knowing. There's fear because society teaches us that it's to be feared and nothing can come good of it. I mean, slaves were forbidden to practice their African spiritual practices and traditions because it caused fear in the hearts and minds of the white slave owners, who told slaves that they would be killed if they didn't accept Christianity. So those who did, on the surface, accept managed to mix some of their own African traditions into Christianity, so much so that the slave masters were unaware. And for a brief time, they even were given their own day of worship until the slave masters began to see that they were doing stuff in it that wasn't Christian. And that they were scared that they were putting hexes on them and things like that. So it was squashed. Why, knowing all this, would blacks want to would blacks in America want to disassociate themselves with their ancestry? The negativity, the sad propaganda relating to African culture. I mean, come on. When we see Africa on TV, what when we were growing up and saw Africa on TV, what did we see? Okay, I remember the give a dime a day to help them give a meal to a child in Africa. It was always a sad. See some kid with their belly swollen because they haven't eaten, half naked or naked with flies buzzing around. Come on. I remember those images. Those campaigns on TV. It was sad. And it would make me be like, oh, that's not my people. It's awful. So today, right, as a result of all of this negativity and things like that, today, even some Afro-Cubans will practice Catholicism publicly, and Santeria privately because of that taboo. Because of the taboo and because it's seen as negative and evil. I mean, blacks here in America have historically have had a hard time embracing their power. If we just knew that embracing our tradition, our African ancestors, when we realize them and honor them, they help us to progress in life. And when that was taken away, what happened? Slavery. The condition of Black people where it is today, loss of power. I mean, we believe the hype that our ancestry is dark and evil. Look at Halloween. Look at all the negativity surrounding ancestor veneration. How is that different from worshiping Jesus, except that Jesus is not our ancestor? I don't care what they say in the Bible. He's not our ancestor. Not mine. What we're doing is paying respect to our ancestors, and they in turn help us. A huge part of many African traditional religions is the remembrance, the celebration, and the guidance of our ancestors. Okay, here's an example. Palo Mayombe, I'm probably saying the name wrong. Palo Mayombe is nature-based with deities found in nature. It's a nature-based tradition. Okay, with deities found in nature. The deities are given human attributes to make them more relatable and understandable. Now, Palo Mayombe stresses that we should respect our ancestors. That's what we should do. Respect them because they have come before and they know more than we do. Okay. Just hang on 1 minute. It got really dark in this room because I am recording by a window and the sunset is so beautiful and all of a sudden it's dark. So I got to turn on the light because I can't see. So give me a second. Okay, I'm back, and I do apologize for disappearing for a brief moment. But I just kept talking and talking, and the sun's going down, and all of a sudden I said, "Oh my goodness, I need some light." I'm sitting in the dark. Okay, so back to what I was talking about. We should respect our ancestors. Okay, so African spirituality is really about liberation. The purpose of African spirituality is to connect us with the ancestors' energy for guidance. What's wrong with that? But we don't realize that. Blacks in America do not. We don't realize it because we haven't been shown it. It's been hidden from us. And we've been taught to fear and to despise our lineage. There's no such thing, no such thing as the devil in African spirituality. No, not at all. There is a duality. Okay, there's a duality. We have a spark, which is a spirit within us. We each have a role to play. There is no heaven and there is no hell. We are one with the earth, with Mother Nature. Why? Because we are made up of 70% water, which means that we are affected by the moon, which affects the ocean. And it affects us. So that makes us the same. And we are nature. Nature is us. Because when our spirits leave our bodies, we go back to the earth and we become one with the earth. That makes me think of, I hear this in a lot of movies, but it reminds me of The Lion King. When Mufasa's telling Simba that the antelope eat the grass and the lions eat the antelope. And when they die, when the lion dies, the antelope, when the lion dies, it becomes the earth and the grass grows, and then the antelope eat the grass. And that's the circle of life. It just keeps going and going and going like that. And that's really true. It's not just in the cartoon. It's true. It's true. So it's the circle of life. We die and become one with the earth. Our body becomes one with the earth. Our spirit lives on forever. And this is a nice quote that I've gotten from afropunk.com. I want to share this quote with you. It says, what we might look at as otherworldly or magical is really a history so embedded in our blood. We just need help connecting with it. And that's from afropunk.com. I know I went on a little bit of a rant, but I really had a lot to share with you today. And I do hope that you've taken away something from this. And I know, being a Black person who's a pagan, who's a mystic, living in New England, it's there aren't many like me here. So it's very hard to find community with others. I've searched online. I managed to find some of the Facebook groups, even though I know it says Black witches, Black pagans. Sometimes I don't like the talk that goes on sometimes, because I feel that Black culture the American Black culture is so negative. Yeah, I'm not a rap fan. I mean, I liked Snoop Dogg when I was a kid. I only liked him, not the words he said, but I liked the way, what was behind the words, the rhythm, how he was able to make his voice go like that. But I wasn't banging his music all the time. And not at all, because frankly, a lot of that stuff insults me, makes me, and I and people don't often know, if they've never seen me and they hear my voice, they don't think I'm Black, and they certainly don't think I'm West African. But that's just the way it was. I went to I had my parents put me in Catholic school where they literally beat parochial school back in the day, when the nuns would beat you and make you talk a certain way. I remember standing up in front of the class. I mispronounced radio, and this old nun, Sister Helen, who's now gone on to spirit world many years ago, had told me to stay up in the class and say it over and over and over again until I got it the right way. Now, the right way was her way, okay? I wasn't allowed to have an accent. I wasn't allowed to think, speak, or do anything different than the rest of those in the school or in the class. And that was from kindergarten to grade 8. And then finally I went to a public school, went to classical high school and graduated. Then went on to college. But see what I'm saying? It's the same way with slavery. They were not allowed to have their culture, tradition. It had to be literally beat out of them because they had to accept the other way. When you are like everyone else, then you are not a threat to anyone else. Then you have no power, no individuality. You're not able to realize the magic, the help of the ancestors that you have within reach. And that is to keep you ignorant so you cannot get ahead. That's what it's about. I know maybe I get a lot of hate email or whatever, but listen, prove me I'm wrong. I mean, concrete, not an opinion. Prove for real. Show me what that slavery was good for the Black person. No, it was not. It's robbed us of our heritage, of our culture, of everything, of many things, our language, our cultures, traditions. So again, I'm going to read that quote one more time, and then I'm going to end because I could be here all night. Let me find this quote. Okay. From afropunk.com. I'm going to leave you with this quote, and then that's it. Think about it. What we might look at as otherworldly or magical is really a history so embedded in our blood. We just need help connecting with it. That's what I'm going to leave you with today. So I thank you for listening. Remember to visit us at Magick with a K and medicine.blogspot.com. We're on Patreon. We're on Facebook as well. Sign up, subscribe to our newsletter. That would be great. And feel free to contact us. Support the Magick and Magick in Medicine Etsy shop. There's always great things for you. And thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening to It's All Good, Magic, Mysticism, and Earth Medicine. Visit us anytime at www.magicandmedicine.blogspot.com.